All right, welcome everybody. Once again, we are here completely unscripted on a weekly basis.
We don't even know what we're talking about, but this is going to be interesting.
So Nima and I we hop on 5 minutes early all the time just to get reconnected and grounded and state our intentions for what we want to, how we want to show up in these calls and stuff. And of course, our goal is to always have a quick little chat before we get on and talk about what we're going to talk about. And so we touched base last Friday and I said, Nima, I got a great topic for us. And then I haven't filled him in on exactly what it is yet, but I just said, Nima, trust the process. And he's rolling with it with me right now, which Nima, thank you for that. I appreciate your trust in me.
Isn't this what entrepreneurship actually is? Like, totally. You got to think about it. And one of the things that I really admire about you as I've been working with you on many different levels is how open you are to just literally, as Kyle Cease does, kind of evolving as we go. We're literally creating as we go. And I'm seeing that that's kind of like living in improv, but allowing whatever comes to come through us, which is going to be fun. So yeah, let's do this. Let's jump right in.
Okay, cool. So I just sent out a bunch of messages throughout the Facebook pages and emails and stuff. So there's people that'll be coming on here as we go. If you're watching this on the replay, still comment, share, like this. If you're enjoying what we're talking about, these will stay online for eternity. As I've said numerous times in our chats before, the kind of conversations we're having right now are completely unscripted and real. And I want to make sure that my kids, when they're watching this in the future, they're proud of their dad and how we're showing up for other people. So that's the intention that I bring to this call. Nima, what's your intention for being here today?
Well, my intention is to basically really serve whatever comes through as far as guidance, as far as mentorship, mindset. My intention is to give you that little mindset shift, that little adjustment above Atlas that makes you look at your environment and your situation a different way so that you can actually approach it from a place of power rather than a place of victimhood.
Amazing, which is obviously your superpower as well. So you're tapping into all of that. So,
well, I got to get over my victim. If that's gonna work for me, and I'm gonna help other people with it, then I have to get over my victimhood too, which is probably one of the more challenging things that we as human beings have to do, is to go from that space of it happened to me, to I'm going to create it. It's going to happen by me. So yes, that's the shift that I'm looking to help create.
Yeah. So on that note, this is the topic for all of you watching, and for you, Nima. It's very much in line with what you just said there. And what I titled this as is how your envy and your jealousy over other people's success is actually a good thing for you. And when I wrote this out, basically when we're coming up with these ideas, it's what's coming up for me right now as an entrepreneur, knowing that other people are probably going through the exact same thing, because it's just the reality.
Who are you been jealous of?
Okay, so here it is. So when I wrote this out, Nima, and I was trying to think, like, who am I jealous of? What am I envious of? All these different things. I tapped way back to actually when I was a teenager up until now. So I'll give you 3 examples. So the first one was teenager me that was defined as a hockey player at that point in my life. And that was what was defined. That's how I defined myself. I used to always look back at opportunities that people got to play in different situations. And I thought, geez, why didn't I ever get my break? And then I went on to watch players, friends of mine, get drafted in the NHL and play in the NHL. And my dream passed me by. And it was a story that I had for a long, long time. So that was one example.
And of course, you make that mean that you're not good enough. When we see that and we do a comparison, we make meaning out of it that we're not good enough, which I know all too well.
Totally. I know you'll be able to relate to all of these. The second one that I put as an example on there was me comparing myself to other people and their success and feeling as though I should be the one that's in their place. So the example that I used was Lewis Howes. So Lewis and I crossed paths in like 2009. And at that point, we were both kind of in the same position where he was sleeping on his sister's couch. I was sleeping on my mom's couch. And we were kind of aligned in what we were doing. We were both in sports and social media, and we were starting to kind of sink our teeth into LinkedIn as a training to be able to create trainings. And anyways, long story short is we ended up collaborating. Lewis launched a training program. Him and his partner exploded. For those of you that know Lewis, he's got a very successful podcast. He's been on the Ellen Show. Like, he's just, he's exploded. And the thing is that he's genuinely grateful for everything that he has. He's a good person, and I deeply respect him and love him for all aspects of that. But there's a part of me that's always thought that should be me, right? So that's the second one. And then the third one came up as I was writing this description for this one, Nima, which was, I've got another good friend of mine who, again, I greatly respect, and I'm very grateful to have him in my life too. His name's Stephen James. And Stephen does these monthly reports where he's talking about the status of his business, his life, just different goals, right? Personally, health-wise, all that kind of stuff. And financially speaking, he was talking about how he's going to easily hit $3.5 million in sales this year. He's got an investment portfolio of $6 million. And I'm thinking inside myself, I wish I had that. Right? When am I going to get to that point? I want the $6 million house on the lake, Like, I have all these thoughts that go through my head.
I'm sure you're the only one who's experiencing all of this, by the way. Nobody who's watching will ever be able to relate to you at all, especially in the social media age.
Not at all, right? So as I was coming up with the idea for this topic that we would talk about, and I was thinking about all that, and like, what's the duality? What is the positives that I get to take out of those feelings that I have around this envy and this jealousy? Because that's what it is, right? It's this creeping up of envy and jealousy. And in the work that we've done recently through me and you working with myself and my wife even too, we look at all these things as to like, what are the positives over the things that we look as being negative, right? So for example, when you worked with Shar and I last week, we were talking about what's something that annoys you about the other person. And one of those things that I said, it's like, I feel like she undervalues herself, right? She doesn't value her time, and then she complains about her time and all these different things. And you said to me, why don't you reflect that on yourself and figure out how do you actually undervalue yourself? And it was like such a trigger for me to go, oh my God, like, I'm showing up in so many aspects of my life when I hop on calls with people that want to create change in their life, and I get bought into their stories and, of why they're not where they want to be and the fears that they have. And I realize that I'm undervaluing myself as I show up in those moments. And I also realized that in these jealous moments, in these envious moments, it's what's driven me to get to where I am over the last 15 years. Like, if I go back as far as the very first experience of feeling like I never got my break as a hockey player, I worked my ass off in hockey and was still very successful. And it drove me down a path of education and brought me into entrepreneurship. Everything has happened purposely. And if I didn't have those experiences, those feelings that come up, I would not be as driven as I am with everything that I'm doing for my business, my personal life, for the way that I want to show up as a husband and a father and everything else. So that's what came up for me. And I wanted to kind of frame it like that for everyone and give you some inspiration to be able to talk about this, because it's directly related to what you've been talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the start of this as well.
We read and we listen to and we watch content that says, don't envy, don't be jealous, don't. And I believe that is, that's not very realistic, because we are built in. I mean, it's in our neurology when we meet somebody. So it's like, men, when we get into a room, we kind of size each other up. Women do the same thing. It's a survival mechanism. It's procreation. It's what we do. And then we translate it onto our social systems, translated onto our, what we have in our possessions. So it's kind of like a sizing up thing. And so it's natural for us to do this. It's in our biology. And so when we label it as a bad thing, our perceptions of it are on a bad thing. When those feelings come up, it's an internal thing that goes up in the body. It's an emotional pain. So when you see it, okay, when you see like Lewis or whoever you're talking about, they're doing well, or somebody talking about their portfolio, and you make that comparison, Trevor, where does that feeling happen in your body? What happens in your body?
Like physically?
Yeah. Because what I've learned here is that we're so up in our heads. What I've been trying to teach many of the clients in your program, and as I'm learning myself, is how do you embody that? What does that feel like when that happens? What shows up for you?
Yeah, it shows up physically as just tension. I find myself tightening up and wanting to, work harder or force things more as opposed to being in a more natural state.
All right. So if you're listening, I want you to kind of go to a time where you felt like you were envious of somebody. It's easy for me. I'm a twin, right? So growing up with a twin brother, I'm a chiropractor. He's a dentist. I got married first. Like we would always go back and forth with this kind of constant comparison. I love this conversation because it was basically how I ran my life. I lived my life like I constantly had something to prove to myself. And that feeling of embodiment shows up in your body, and it's this tightness, as you suggest. And for me, it goes right into my chest. And so the way that we're wise to process it is just go into the body. Because what happens is we react. It comes up, we react, and then we beat ourselves up. And so my suggestion is first, pause. Go to a moment and pause and get into your body. See exactly what's feeling, where it's showing up, what it's feeling. Oh my goodness. Look at my shoulders tensing up. Then you get curious. I wonder what's happening. I wonder what's going on there. And what happens is it's a transformation because we are so addicted to externals, money, fame. So this is what you talked about, money with your friend.
Yeah.
Lewis Howes with his fame because he's been on Ellen show. You haven't yet. He has. So there's money, there's fame, there's you name it. We are obsessed with externals. So envy always, most of the time, can't happen unless we are projecting from an external perspective. Mm-hmm. So how do you deal with it? Well, here's how it can be a good thing. All of our feelings become an opportunity for us to go inside. And by inside, I mean restoring an intimacy with self. And I don't mean it like in a sexual way. I mean, intimacy basically means into me, I see, right? Into me, I see. So what does that mean? It means I am now cultivating the skill of observing something, you driving by in a nice car or posting pictures of your family in the Maui Four Seasons, in Hawaii. And then I start to, it comes up. And then I go into me, I see this trigger coming up. And then I go into an inquiry on what am I making that mean? Well, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. And what I do then is compare my values, which are in alignment with who I am, with somebody else's values, which are in alignment with who they are, and somebody else's highlight reel to my, day to day. And then I can use that as an excuse to punish myself. That's one option. Or I can use it as an opportunity to go within and then find my own value and see where I have contributed, see where I have in the exact same degree, and to use that to step up. And so the greatest things that I've ever accomplished in my life have been because of jealousy. Because I look and I see and I check in and I feel those feelings and I go, I can step it up. I can elevate my game. I can expand. I can become something greater so that I can expand. Every expansion that you've ever done has been at the hands of jealousy, has been at the hands of, looking at somebody going, oh, I wish I had that. Jealousy is a great thing, and that's how we reframe it. It is something to embrace. It's something to go into rather than to push away. And we use it to actually elevate our game. And this happens with not just this, but every other emotion has been, is an opportunity for me to go into myself and go, how can I connect deeper with myself? How can I be embodied and attuned within myself, because in that moment I can then be present to you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the biggest picture that I wanted people to be able to get from this topic too, was just to not beat yourself up over these feelings of envy and jealousy, but to actually reframe the way that you're thinking about it and realize that it is those feelings that drive you to what you're actually trying to create in this world, and to seek answers, quite honestly, to seek mentorship, to seek, what is the formula that actually makes all this work. And, like for Stefan, my friend Stefan, for example. So yes, I looked at his financial success and I thought, why not me, But as I was listening to him even talk too, Nima, he was talking about that, and he was speaking of it from a place of gratitude. And then the advice that he gave people was, your income will be directly related to the amount of value that you provide.
Yeah.
Which is like, if you're really listening, that's the only thing that matters.
It steps up. Yeah.
And it's the same reason why we show up here to do these and why we talk about intent. It's like, yeah, we could strategize about how to get more reach and how to, have a high converting call to action at the end and all these different things. But if we actually just show up and talk about things in a real way, and it resonates with anybody out there that's going through the same things, then we're showing up with value, and value gets received with value, right? So,
well, I wanted to share this with you. I just sent you something. Could you post this in the thing the way that you do? This
Sure.
is a quote by Aristotle, and I want to distinguish envy and jealousy. And what he says is, jealousy is both reasonable and belongs to reasonable men and women, of course, while envy is base and belongs to the base. For one makes himself get good things by jealousy, while the other does not allow his neighbor to have them through envy, which deserves a second read. So this is a distinguishing of jealousy versus envy, and I really want you to get this. Jealousy is both reasonable and belongs to reasonable men, while envy is base and belongs to the base. For one makes himself get good things by jealousy, so jealousy helps us level up, while the other does not allow his neighbor to have them through envy.
Mm.
So I wonder what that brings up for you. Anybody who has experienced it, I mean, if you're on social media, then you have experienced this, right? Yeah. So what does that bring up for you? Can you distinguish the difference between jealousy and envy? I mean, so many things. Like right now, I just went through a breakup. I'm 42 years old. I went through a breakup. And I now see my brother, he's married, has 2 beautiful children. And I'm noticing that my jealousy of his situation, it's really interesting when you're in a marriage and you feel stuck, you wish you were single. When you're single, you wish you were in a marriage. Isn't that interesting how we get that way?
Yeah.
So when you're in a situation and you're looking to, I'm looking to my brother and I'm saying, oh my gosh, I'm so jealous. He's got this life. He's doing this. What does that jealousy enable me to do, or force me to do, or push me to do? Pushes me to actually elevate my game. Forces me to ask me the question, well, who do I have to become? Well, Nima, you got to become a lot more empathetic than how you've been. You've got to start to create habits and cultivate habits within self-discipline to feel better, to be healthier, to be less stressed, to be better able to communicate and connect with other people. There's aspects of your business that require you to get into alignment. Okay, good. Way to go. This jealousy is helping me level up. So envy is different. Envy takes away, is like, I don't want him to have better than me. Whereas jealousy is like, I'm so happy for him and I really want great things for myself too. So I really want you guys to distinguish the jealousy versus the envy. Jealousy is an incredible tool for expansion and self-governance and self-actualization, whereas envy is really about taking from the other.
Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it in that way before. which makes me think I might retitle this if I was to do it again, but I won't judge myself based on what I showed up with, because that was the whole point of this. Is
that was what you knew at that time. That was exactly where you were at the time, and it was useful.
Yeah, absolutely, and it does put it into a different frame too if you think about it that way. Because you're absolutely right. Like, the jealousy is not coming from a place of I wish those people didn't have the success that they have, because I love the fact that those people have had the success that they have. It just creates that drive inside of me to want to, as you say, level up on skills, level up on habits, level up on being a better person, all these things that will attract the right type of clients, to attract the right partner back to you.
Yeah. And the difference between that is, when you're happy for someone's success, what happens is, if they falter or if they fail, you're there as a support and a guide for them. But we have this thing out there. There's a word called Schadenfreude. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Look it up. Schadenfreude. Okay, it's a German word, obviously. Look, SC Schadenfreude. There it is. I wrote it in our little chat there together. Schadenfreude basically means the joy that we experience in another person's pain. Schadenfreude comes from envy. It's like, I remember I went through a bit of a setback after, I remember going through a relationship breakup and kind of a business setback. And there was this incredible sense of Schadenfreude by a few key people who, when I really looked, they're the type of people who,
Oh, we lost them. 1 sec. Let me get them back, everyone. He's almost here. There we go.
Can you see me?
Yes, sir. We got you.
I was saying that the Schadenfreude was happening with the people who had envy, who were looking at my financial situation, what I had accomplished, and there was this inherent envy. So those are the ones that love to kick you when you're down. So when you falter, one of the blessings of a crisis is that your true friends show up in those times, and the ones who had envy are the ones to actually kick you when you're down, and it helps to really sift out who the real people are. And so Schadenfreude happens because of envy.
So I'd love to hear from everybody that's watching this too. Tell us your own experiences in facing or dealing with moments of jealousy or envy, or now that you have a better understanding, like I do, about kind of the difference between those two words, even, and how we frame it. Give us some examples. Where have you ever felt this before? And we'd love for transparency. There's obviously, hopefully you're getting from this that whatever feelings you do have, they're not wrong, they're not bad. In fact, it could be a very positive thing for you to actually be driven.
Like, you feel jealous? Good.
Yeah.
What I learned from Jocko Wilkins, or he's the guy, the Navy SEAL who wrote Extreme Ownership. He has this thing called good. You had a setback, you had a failure, good. Use it to level up. Your best friend got married to the most beautiful human being on the planet, and you're still single, good. Use it to step up and level up. And so let's embrace those feelings of jealousy and be cautiously aware of envy, because envy, what you want to do also, this to help you elevate in your power, is you're looking at someone, you're assuming that you don't have what you're observing in the other person, but it's wise for you to look and go, where do I possess it in the same way? Where do I have it in my form? And start making a list. Like I'm big into doing inner work whenever these emotions come up. So I got my journal here. And so you see a shit ton of lists in me finding benefits of this or drawbacks of that, because it helps to dissolve my emotional charges so that I can be more centered and more productive and more effective when I'm walking through planet Earth. Because these perceptions that we have, these emotional charges, cloud our power. They rob us of our freedom and our self-expression. So if I can look at you and you have this incredible relationship that's in a form of a relationship, like a romantic one, and I'm lacking one in this moment, I look and I ask, where do I have it exactly in my form? I have a little bit with my dog. I have deep connection now that's emerging with my parents, with my friends, with my ex-partner. We have a truth and a authenticity and sincerity that we never really had in our relationship that's kind of gone to another level. And then we can then ask the next question of, what's the benefit of having it in these forms? What's the benefit of having it in these forms? And what was the drawback of having it in that old form that I used to kind of infatuate with, so that we can balance our perceptions and get us into a place where we're actually feeling grateful for exactly how it is right now. And as Byron Katie says, by loving what is.
Mm-hmm. So I see some familiar names here as well that are watching in and listening. If you guys are there, let us know when these jealousy moments have crept up for you. Liz just made a comment here, said she experienced it when a friend of hers who has no corporate experience is doing exactly what she wants to be doing in the speaking area. And I spoke with Liz actually yesterday. We had a call, and Liz is the sole provider for her family. She is working her butt off. She came from the corporate world because she has a dream on what she wants to create. And this is definitely something that's that came up in our call too, Liz. So I appreciate the fact that you're, honestly speaking about that here. And, hopefully what we're talking through and some of the advice that's being given is sinking in on this too. That drive that you have to be an entrepreneur and to, create your own fates and to not go back into that corporate job, and that jealousy that you feel over this other person is what's driving you right now. So it's actually a really good thing, right? It's moving you forward.
Awesome.
And Danielle says, this happened to me earlier. Yeah, when your video cut out there, Nima, you came back right away. Danielle does a lot of Facebook Lives too, so the pain of technology and all that kind of stuff, but it happens. That's the thing. We get to roll with the punches, and it's all part of it.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions about this? Does anyone have anything that's come up? Any challenges in this arena, jealousy, envy? I think it's wise for us to just, kind of wrapping it up and summing it all up. It's really about owning whatever you feel that somebody's got above you. First and foremost, be grateful that you have an opportunity to step up. This is basically it. Good. You say good. Secondly, you want to own where you have it in your own form, because we're all projections of one another. So everything that I see in you is a projection of me. Everything negative that I see in you, I also possess as well. If I haven't really been consciously aware of where it is, it's wise for me to look. But everything great that I see in you, it's also something that I possess as well. So it's wise for me to look and see, where do I own that trait?
Yeah.
Where do I possess it? Where do I own it to the same degree in my own life? And just get busy looking so that you can then stop thinking that you're unworthy and step up and keep serving other people. Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to heart-centered service is how you're going to achieve anything really, and move forward. And that's how the universe is actually created, is so that we can actually move forward by serving others and making the world a better place and adding value to the marketplace. So this is exactly our journey. And so we can only add value to the marketplace if we are valuing ourselves. And if I'm not looking at where I own what I see in you that I put on a pedestal, then I have less value of myself, and I'm not going to be able to put as much value into the universe, so into the marketplace. Yeah. So own the traits of whatever you are jealous of and watch your self-worth soar, and that will allow you to create more worth in the marketplace.
Yeah, it allows you to level up, right? And Danielle's comments here really speaks to that too. So she said she used to be a personal assistant to a successful lady, found herself getting jealous of her life, thinking that it was unfair, that her life was not like that. And Danielle, it's, you know, I commend you for putting in the work as well, because I've been watching. I see the kind of stuff that you're putting out as well, and you know, you're driven to support other people just like we are, which is exactly what you need to be doing. So you stepped up in your own life, and this actually goes to another point that I wanted to make too, which directly reflects on this too, Nima, which is constantly leveling up too. Because if you there's a term that, like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? But to be the, you know, for lack of a better term, on the opposite side of that, the dumbest person in the room, it takes a lot of guts. Like, it takes like a humility to walk in there and go, I know a lot of stuff, but I want to get here in my consciousness level. Like, I want to, you know, be emotionally intelligent on a new level. I want to be successful on a new level. And we join masterminds, we join groups, we join programs to be able to do that. We get mentorship, we get coaching. And I know, Nima, you've invested in the past and continue to do so in your own leveling up in that area, not only on the personal development side, but on the business side, right?
Always. Yeah, it's really important. If you want to level up, it doesn't just happen by you sitting around. It happens by you expanding your quality of conversation. So your life becomes, my life is built based on the level and quality of the conversations that I'm having within the relationships, business and personal. It's that simple. Your life is a conversation. So the question you're going to be asking is, am I enrolled in conversations that are expanding me, learning me, contributing? Or if we look at most people stuck in the victim mentality, they're having conversations that are based on gossip, putting other people down, thinking about and talking about what's not working. So your life will demonstrate exactly what you're conversating about. That's why it's so important to be engaged in groups of people where they are beyond your level. Here's where you are, and they are beyond your capacity and level. That causes you to level up. So it takes an investment to engage in a conversation of a higher quality, which causes you, look at what you have to become. Like, I mean, I remember the first time I invested big money into getting mentorship coaching and getting involved in a higher level conversation. And I remember I was scared. I was like, I don't know if I can afford this. But what happened was, it was beyond my capacity. So it was just beyond what I was capable of, which forced me to become this level higher to embark in that conversation. The question is, who do I have to become? What do I have to do? Who do I have to become? What do I have to believe about myself in order to reach that level? So I became that, and then I expanded, and then all of a sudden I looked and my reality shifted. And so I was like, wow, this is working. I wonder what would happen if I went to a bigger level. So there was another level of investment that I had to make, which was, you know, about 50% more than that initial one that I made. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I could do that. I'm going to be sick. I got anxiety. I almost had a panic attack. You know, before I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a $5,000 investment. I can't do it. This was like $60,000 investment and to do this level of coaching. But you know what happened? Who I had to become in order to match that level in all areas of my life was greater. And so now what I'm doing is I'm looking to invest, because I've now proven to myself that I can do this. I know how to make money. I know how to create a business. It's now really about impact. It's now really about taking a big, hairy, audacious goal and an idea, and to really be able to serve humanity with it. And so what I'm doing now is I'm aligning myself and investing. I just made an investment just before this call to join a network of people who are really game changers, who are really looking to make an impact on the planet, because the conversation that I want to enroll in now is changing from how do I make money in business to how do I, continue a profitable business, but it's actually in alignment with doing something that's actually changing the world. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I've invested in. And this is my next level of fear. So that's where I'm at now.
Yeah. And it's funny because and again, I keep saying this, but the reason why we do these Facebook Lives, how we do them, unscripted, I give Nima the topic when we pop on, as you guys are hearing it as well, is I'm starting to see that on both sides of the table here too, like in working with you, Nima, because we work together in all facets. Nima supports me and my growth emotionally through all of this work that we're doing. And I'm supporting Nima on the business side of things as well. And we're talking through stuff. And I see moments for you, Nima, where you have a patience level that just wants to get there fast, right? And that's part of the journey, right? It's part of the journey, the exploration, let me go and research 100 people and see what they're doing right, and then take the best parts of those and make it my own. And that's where innovation happens, right? And there's really no way to rush it. But I feel like I'm supporting you in leveling up on that way, and vice versa. And then, of course, through investments that we're both making in other mentorship programs too. I know for me, I just hopped off a mastermind right before we hopped on this call, and the 3 people that were on there are all running multi-million-dollar businesses. In fact, the one guy just did a weekend where he ended up closing $750,000 in coaching sales in a 3-day weekend. So from a financial standpoint, like majorly successful. But you know what 95% of our conversation was about? What? It was about mindset. It was about what it took for them to actually get to the place where, number one, they felt like they deserved that. And number two, that they were showing up from a place that was providing so much value that it wasn't about these people investing 75 grand ahead times 10. It was those people looked at it and thought, this is what I need to get to that next level too. And it's all related, right? Like all of that value exchange is totally related. And being in an uncomfortable place, getting comfortable being uncomfortable is the game that we're playing here. You have to get to that place, and you have to stretch beyond what you even think your means are too. Because as you said, with investing in that previous coaching that you had, where it was like $5,000 and, oh man, I don't know if I can afford this. I've gone through that too. And it's not that long ago. Just recently, I've invested in coaching that's in the 75 to 100 grand a year range as well. And like, I've never done that before. And if I was to look back and give myself advice 15 years ago, it would be invest in yourself. Invest in leveling up, Don't think that you know everything or that you have to learn everything the hard way through experience and failures. Like, learn from other people that have been there along the way. And I'll say this too, and I'll let you maybe riff on this a little bit. It's not just business. It's also in your relationships and how you focus on those, or, when you're going through crisis moments in your personal life and you feel like you can't balance that personal life with your business, and you end up choosing the business. And I'm speaking from personal experience, right?
Me too.
Yeah, I know that you can relate to this, because this is what we've both gone through and are continuing to go through, is deciding how you're going to do the inner work to be able to become a better version of yourself, so that your business thrives and your relationship thrives. If it's worth fighting for, that's what you will do, right?
100%, man. It all comes down to knowing what your values are and honoring the values of the people that are around you. This is the biggest tidbit that give you a PhD in human behavior and relationships. If we can keep mindful of this, and this is what I'm coaching you and Sharmila to do, is consistently staying present to the values of each other, not making them wrong, but actually embracing the other person's values. First, the exercise to really know what they are. And second, to really link that person's values to yours, so that you're not trying to change them with respect to you or change you with respect to them, but really owning and honoring and what you bring to the table for it, and what you're giving and what you're receiving in fair exchange. Mm-hmm. Once that's done, the foundation is there. All other communication becomes possible. But without that, then you have volatility, you have jealousy, you have envy, you have projection, you have injection of values, and it's a freaking mess. So I'm on a path, I'm on a purpose to help reduce volatile relationships that are heading for crisis. You're either in a crisis right now, or you're recovering from one that happened months to years ago and you really haven't overcome from the trauma of that, or you're headed for one right now. There's, one of few different places what I've observed that the different types of people. There's if you're one of those people who are in a very fulfilling, committed relationship, for example, consider yourself very lucky, because then you're what I would see is one of the very few. But most of the time, you're either headed for crisis, you're recovering from one that you've been traumatized by, or you are in the middle of one right now. You're in the middle of one, headed for one. Sorry, you're in the middle of one, recovering from one, or you're headed for one. And if you're dominating and manipulating and controlling one another, you are inauthentic, you're holding on to lies, your health, that to the point where you have anxiety and health problems, then these, from my observation, these are the warning signs that you're headed for that. And how is that related to jealousy and envy? Oftentimes you create this domination with the two of you where there is like a projection of values. And so you have this competition that you have with one another, rather than seeing that this is a team and there's a bubble between the two of you, that you're working towards something greater. There's been a disconnection that is headed for disaster. And I really love helping people prevent that. There's a way to do it.
Yeah. No, and I know that this is a vision of yours to be able to support people in that capacity, and it's evolving as we speak. We're witnessing the growth of Nima as we go through this as well too, which is really, inspiring to see, because I know that you have a vision to really truly change the world in the way that people look at those crisis situations, to be able to find the good in it and figure out a way to either mend those relationships or see the good in people parting ways and becoming the better versions of themselves, whatever that looks like, So I acknowledge you for that. And obviously you guys are seeing that this is an evolving process as we go here too. And it's dictating the conversations that we have. And I'd love to hear your feedback. If this is resonating with you, just leave a comment either now or in the future if you're watching this on the replay. And what's resonating for you? We'd love to hear from you and see what is sticking for you more than anything.
Yeah.
And as we do that, Nima, I'm just scrolling through your Facebook page, just because I know you've posted quite a few things in the last few days that I thought were very, kind of relevant to the conversation we were having here today as well too. So like just an hour ago, like half an hour before we hopped on here, you posted, "My desire to be seen and heard by others comes from my inability to see and hear myself." So that really speaks to that, exactly what we just said, right? Like you looking internally to see how you can actually support people as opposed to standing on top of the mountain and screaming and wonder why nobody's listening, right? It's because you didn't pull them up with you. So by changing that, that's it's just a game changer.
Huge. It's been great chatting. If there's anyone who has any questions or they wanted to watch, I have a training on people going through that relationship limbo and transitional anxiety. They don't really know, should I stay, should I go? They want to go into that journey inside to find out who their truth is, rather than focusing on externals. There's a step-by-step that I take people through. And so I have a little thing that Trevor will put up, and you can just watch it and see exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I just posted it in the comments there. So go check that out if you haven't yet. Lots of great stories there too. Again, I think you'll be able to relate to something that's inside of that video. And yeah, stay tuned for more stuff too that's coming out to be able to support you on this. Obviously, we'll keep doing these chats, but I know, Nima, we're working together, and there's some exciting things that we have going on too around creating different resources that people can start to implement different tactics and tools and strategies into their daily routines that are consumable. It's not the everything that overwhelms everyone, but it's like bite-sized tips that you're going to be giving people on a daily basis, right?
That's what it's all about, baby.
Yeah, so it's all coming down the pipeline here, but we're just grateful for everybody that was here and everybody that's watching this in the future. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all your comments. Danielle, good to see you. Liz, Danielle, good to see you.
Thank you, Danielle. I wanted to say something to you guys as well, is thank you for your time and attention. We don't take it lightly. We are here to serve in any way we can. We're not selling anything. We just really want to come and connect with you. One of the things I love about Trevor is that he has really stepped up his game since February, and he's really leveled himself up on his level of service. And I've seen a huge transformation just with his way of being within himself, his marriage. I'm working with him there. And so it's really neat for me to see how his work, his inner work, his investment that he's done in himself and his marriage has now translated into creating wins for all of his clients. So you guys are blessed to be able to follow such a wonderful guy, wonderful human being who's now become a friend of mine. And so it's only natural that I entrust him in helping me with my transition in my message to help couples who are struggling in relationship crisis find alignment by finding alignment within themselves first.
Yeah. As you say, Nima, your mess is your message. And if you take away anything from today, be inspired by that, which is your mess is truly your message. All the chaos and the craziness that you feel you've been through, it's exactly how it was supposed to go. So that's empowering. That's exciting. And we appreciate you guys being here. We'll talk to you next week.
Big love.